Hey, what's going on, everybody? It is David Palmer, the Leo King, and we're here for Deep Astrology for the week of April 9th through the 15th of 2019. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks for being a part of this live show, or if you're watching it post on YouTube. Truly appreciate all your support and for always sharing these videos. This is a big, powerful week, and if you've never watched this show before, we do this live here at the High Vibe TV Leo King Studios. And more importantly, we also do the charts as well. So not only am I going to channel the astrology for you, I'm going to bring you the charts brought to you by Astro Gold, which you can get on iOS, Android, and of course on your MacBook or your iMac. Or if you're on PC, go to SolarFire. Check that out. Always appreciate them for helping us out with all those charts. And this is a special week because tomorrow on April 10th is my 7-year anniversary of doing a video horoscope every day. Over 10,000 videos, and I gotta just say thank you all so much for the support for 7 freaking years. At the very end of this whole entire broadcast, we will be airing a little fun little 5-minute video of all the kind of the past horoscopes I've done, all the crazy places I've done horoscopes that have brought me to here. So if you've been watching me on Deep Astrology maybe for like the last year or 6 months and you really didn't know where this all started, it's a really cool video. Just keep watching when we end the show. It'll go on to that cool little kind of memory lane, I guess you could say. Now, speaking of memory lane, I don't really know if memory lane is where we really want to hang out anymore on this week, because we are facing a lot. This is a loaded week of astrology. Number one, the sun, of course, at its exaltation in Aries, woohoo, on the 9th, the last day of all the planets direct. But right on Wednesday, bang, at 10:01 a.m. Pacific, Jupiter retrogrades in its home sign of Sagittarius. This has been a big Jupiter cycle. Jupiter in its home sign, it came in at the end of 2018, and here it's been through the beginning of this year, really expanding our horizons. But I think it's been a really kind of a weird Jupiter, to be honest with you. Even though it's in its home sign, it's been in squares to Neptune in its home sign. And so there's been this kind of like, what's real, what's not, what should I take on the adventure with, what really are my beliefs and my perception of the world? Really, are they in a right alignment or not? Especially when you have Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn with the South Node right now that are pretty much dead conjunct. I mean, this is like, is this the path, and what is the path? And then you add Mercury in Pisces, which is already in its fall position, went through a retrograde, stopped on Neptune. We have been through not only the mercurial, the really like thought-provoking, questioning aspect that has been very messed up, but the whole perception aspect of Jupiter and which door to open and what is the right door, what is the door that's going to take me down a road that I don't know if I want to go down memory lane again, or do I want to go into the higher dimensions of the universe? Talk about some intensity. The sun, of course, right when Jupiter goes retrograde, squares Saturn. Now this is a big battle. The Saturn element in its home sign of Capricorn is at dignity, where the sun, even though it's got its confidence, of course in Aries, right? Aha, I'm an exalted sun. It's not at home. The sun is dignified in Leo. So even though the sun is strong, it's not as strong as Saturn in Capricorn. And sun square Saturn is definitely one of those big choice moments. But we have to remember the South Node's here. We have to remember that Pluto is here. And so the sun this week is actually going to square the nodes, square Saturn, and square Pluto, all in Capricorn. We are going to go face first into this huge, dynamic, powerful force of change and big decisions. Now, with the South Node here, there is a little bit of the illusion that the choices have to be made right away. But with Jupiter retrograding and with the moon in Gemini during this big Sun-Saturn square, exactly opposite Jupiter when it goes retrograde, and with Mercury in this T-square, there's a T-square to Mercury in Pisces. There's a lot that's coming down to we need to really take in all of the different doorways that we can have. And the pressure of Saturn is going to be a lot, feeling like we have to make a choice now. We have to do this now. And with Pluto there, we have to commit. We have to commit. We have to commit to the change. We have to commit to the transformation. I think it's important for us to really understand the changes that need to be made, understand the different choices and which roads that we're going to go down, but we do need to take stock on things, especially emotionally, because this week as well, we are going to have Venus conjunct Neptune. And this is happening exactly while Jupiter's retrograding. And so this adds some good things. Venus and Neptune definitely like each other. They're in signs they love. Venus is exalted in Pisces. Neptune's in its dignified position at home in Pisces. And so this conjunction point is definitely of us seeing the multidimensional, the more compassionate, the relationships, the projects. You know, where is it that we're feeling that there's some things that are weird and hidden that we need to uncover, and other things that are beautiful and imaginative and glorious in many ways. But there is two sides of the coin to this whole entire week. And I think with this whole decision aspect of which road to go down, what path should I finally take, because the pressure's on now. And the reason, another reason why the pressure's on is because with Jupiter retrograding, that means Mercury this week will square Jupiter. Now, Mercury is supported by Saturn and South Node and Pluto and Capricorn, because Mercury in Pisces is making nice sextiles to this place. But again, another South Node area. So we need to keep looking at this Cancer energy of the North Node, because Mercury will trine the North Node. Plus, we're going to have the Moon come into Cancer this week and make a first quarter waxing square to the Sun in Aries, which means the decisions we make about who we want to be, because that's really what these decisions are. It's not so much about the road. It's not so much about which partner or which project or all these things that we can get kind of, I think, lost in. We need to get back to the core fundamentals of who we are and what that identity is, and it's a true test. And we are going to get the roadblocks if we are really not living the authentic truth about who we really are. I think we're going to get a very big, intense, powerful energy of desire this week, especially when you look at this Pluto aspect, square the Sun. This is one of the most powerful squares in astrology of extra energy, extra power, and almost like an overwhelming, like nuclear kind of energy that comes with inside of us. But, we have to remember the emotional repercussions of the choices that we're making. But at the same time, what are those emotional repercussions all about? It's a good question. I would say that a lot of the emotional stuff that we're going through right now is definitely more on the path of, one, are we in our authentic self, and do we feel comfortable being in that? Or are we trying to make choices to either A, especially with all this Pisces memory lane stuff going on still trying to avoid the forward movement? And I say that because forward movement with Mars in Gemini, the Sun in Aries, and when we really look at what this Saturn Pluto South Node is about ending an old structure in life and rebuilding. And I think that we're afraid to rebuild. It's almost like we would rather try and hold on. And it's a little bit like if you were to tell Scrooge McDuck, like, hey, sorry, DuckTales is ending, and we got to take the vault from you. You can't swim in the vault anymore. It's like freak out. Scrooge is going to freak out. He's not going to know what to do. It doesn't mean he still can't be aligned with who he is. Maybe he needs to go swim in cash instead of coins, and maybe in his own vault, not one funded by Disney. There's like this little bit of a conundrum here of like, things have to change. And we are at where we are just at this tipping point right now. You have to remember, because of this three-quarter square of the Moon, and with the Sun in Aries, right? These are dignified positions that are affecting the Sun in square. Saturn in its dignity. The Moon in its dignity. Square the Sun. This is a T-square as well that's kind of forming here, right? So there's a T-square to Mercury, and there's a major T-square to the Sun. Mercury in its fall position, so mentally, I'll be honest with you, it won't make logical sense to you, especially that, if you're trying to avoid things or you're trying to put things off on the back burner. definitely not going to give you the insight and the understanding of your life if you just realize, instead of looking for an answer or looking for something, the answer is within inside of you of what you're putting on the back burner and dealing with it and coming up with the emotional and the structure of your life and how that's got to have some changes. And definitely some very heart-to-heart, compassionate conversations with this Venus-Neptune alignment. And being real and not hiding things or putting things aside. Because one thing on Venus on Neptune is like, we're at the beach, like get a cocktail, get the towel out, and let's just, you know what, turn off your computer and let's just chill out and let's just look at the ocean all day. Even though maybe you need that computer on because you got rent to pay in the next day and you need to finish that project or you're not getting your paycheck. You know, it's kind of like we are in situations in our life where it's like we have real life that we still have to do, and it's how we choose with this Sun in Aries that's in massive T-squares this week and major squares that we have to remember, okay, if we deal with a lot of the stuff that we put on the back burner and we start to present ourselves with the options, because I think the main thing here is to remember we have options. When Jupiter retrogrades and with Mercury that will square Jupiter and Venus this week, which will square Jupiter, we almost seem to think that there's no options around. Like, you know, it's like, oh no, this is what I have to do, and that's all I can do, and that's it. Or we can lose our hope about things, or we might get some information this week that, you know, really puts us down. But really, we've already been through this square, so this is just the end of this Mercury square Jupiter, and we need to remember to be optimistic and hopeful. Because I'll jump to the end of the week. When we come into Sunday, Monday, guess what? The Sun trines Jupiter. So after it goes through all this crap, okay, because this is hard for the Sun. The sun is exalted, but it's dealing with dignified positions of the Moon and Saturn and Pluto, which is in Capricorn, which is already a gnarly, intense thing of rules and restrictions and having to make choices. And the Sun in Aries is like, okay, well, who am I and what is that choice going to be? And having the courage to move on into that direction and choose a path. But remember that we have to pull towards what we know in our authentic, emotional, true self, that is. And when you actually think about all this stuff going on, there are options, okay? There is hope. But us losing ourselves into the opposite form of completely like delirium of like, oh yeah, this will totally be the best thing for me in my life, or I can make anything turn anything into gold alchemically, magically, when maybe it's toxic for you, maybe it's a past situation that's already giving you the same results over and over and over again. We call that insanity, or I could actually quote Albert Einstein on that one. So this is whether or not we're going to get out of our own insanity, get out of our own, putting this on the back burner. I'm going to keep putting this on the back burner, especially with projects, relationships. Relationships are a big deal this week. Why? Because when that moon squares that sun, we are halfway to the second full moon, okay? I am doing a special report this week that I'm launching on Friday. I'm spending days on this here in the studio because I didn't do a monthly report this month, because to me, it's this second full moon that is the biggest trigger point ever. From now until the end of Aries, which is April 19th, we are literally in the biggest and I will say one of about 3 different transits over the next year about relationships that are going to peak out here, and this is coming in the next couple weeks, and less, about a week and a half, and I know you can feel it. That we can't put this whole relationship thing on the back burner when it comes to the relationship with ourselves, the relationships with our partnerships, business, pleasure, romantic, friendship. All of it is on the table right now, and all of it is scattered, and all of it has to be sorted out, and all of it has to aim towards this emotional place of what we call our own personal home, and what's going to really be nurturing and really be the decision of what this home is going to be of our identical self, our identical soul, our identical, I guess you could call it twin in a weird way, with Mars, of course, in Gemini, and Mars is about identity. We're having to, with so much information, process a lot with so much spiritual overwhelmingness and past stuff trying to end, and with so much demand from Saturn and Pluto and the South Node in Capricorn. That Saturn-Pluto Capricorn thing with the South Node, we're not going to see that again in our lives, folks. And I mean, just think, this next full moon is at the last degrees of Libra, which is where the Saturn-Pluto conjunction happened, 82 through 84, right? When Saturn and Pluto messed around at the end there and conjuncted at the end of Libra and then went into Scorpio. And this is where the full moon's going to be. So, and then you've got Pluto and Saturn, which are finally extremely close to actually conjuncting with the South Node there. Saturn and Pluto are still direct. They're so close. They're within 3-degree orb. And right at the midpoint between Saturn and Pluto is the South Node. So this is us at the brink of an end of a 35-year cycle. That Saturn-Pluto cycle, they call it 33. It really is, to me, the exact point. This is like a 35-year cycle here, folks. And what do you think? I mean, I wrote it in my magazine this year, my 2019 Leo King Astrology Guide, which you can still get on Amazon. Guess what? Relationships are going to be the biggest part of 2019 to set you up for 2020 and the year of the rat and a whole new world. And you know deep in your own soul that this is the point to where you have to really start to make some calls. And this deals with our self-worth. This deals with our true self. Because who we represent ourselves with, or who we connect with, represents who we really are. And any situation in relationships right now, especially with Venus and Neptune, especially with Venus square Jupiter, you got to remember that there is no surety at all. And if you're trying to, especially with Pluto and Saturn right now, trying to grasp and hold on, because even though Venus will square Jupiter, it will sextile Pluto and Saturn, which will be this kind of over control or obsession, or, oh yeah, I can have this, or I need this, or I want this, or this person will change me. This person will bring me everything I've ever wanted in my life. When this is a reminder that this is the Sun in Aries, this is Saturn in Capricorn, this is stuff of our own individual, path and the way that we create it. Sure, relationships are a part of that, but they are not the definition of this, which 2 full moons in Libra. Come on. So this week is going to be extreme. Extreme. Because we went through a lot of positive energy for the last 5 days with Venus, and the moon in exaltation, with the sun in exaltation. There was a lot of positive vibes this weekend. And even coming here into Monday, it was like Jupiter on its last day of being direct and all the planets direct. But guess what? Wednesday, the hammer drops. And when the hammer drops, it goes from all that positive energy, which last week I dropped the hammer hard on people to not allow that extremely positive energy force to block you from still looking deep in the soul and remembering that there are these extra layers of subconscious and unconscious, and I even said, outer dark forces that are using this positive energy to divert you from dealing with some of the more deeper internal stuff that is holding us back in our lives. Now, I know there's a lot of astrology, and this is a lot to talk about, and I can't wait to show you on the charts. But when you actually really start to compile this information, and you see that there's so much intense, square aspects, T-squares, and more importantly, exalted positions coming into squares with dignified positions. Just look at Venus. Venus is exalted in Pisces, but it will square Jupiter. This is us needing to really understand that the choices we make, because all while this Saturn-Pluto aspect in the South Node is getting really extreme, the sun squaring it all and adding energy to it is when Venus is starting to come into these square points and, sextile points. And Venus will sextile Saturn in its dignified position. So that is putting it at a conundrum, because Venus is exalted, and Venus, she doesn't know which way to go. She's like, do I go towards this Jupiterian square of delusional belief and that I can make something work, remember that Venus is now going to join Neptune in the semi-square to Uranus and Taurus, which means that this semi-square is now bringing up our wants, our needs, our desires. Is it moving me forward into the best energy, or am I going backwards on my self-worth because it's easier? Because I really don't want to ascend my life, or I'm terrified of doing it alone to actually see my true worth and actually get to the top of my own self-worth and my own, appreciation of myself through self-care, of appreciating my value in myself and stepping my value up. Are you going to do that? Or are you going to just say, you know what, it's easier, this situation, it's comfortable? Like, this is a very, 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 very deep choice for everybody on the planet. And with that full moon in Libra, the second one that's building, and with a moon in Cancer that's going to be squaring all this stuff with the Aries element in exaltation and opposing Saturn and Pluto and Capricorn with the South Node, and then trining all the Pisces energy, this moon in Cancer is confused as well in its dignified position as it's opposing Saturn of like, oh, I want to be comfortable, but oh, Saturn's asking me to make some really hard choices in my life. And even though the South Node's there, it's like we can't write off that there is some importance to things, that we just can't write it off and say, oh, the South Node's there, we're not supposed to do anything negative or harsh or bad or make a hard choice. No. I'm just going to go feel comfortable. Like, that's what the universe is telling me to do. That's it. I don't want to actually deal with my life and my structure. And we are being forced with a South Node, Saturn, and Pluto to restructure our lives and make changes. Like, it's part of the whole cycle. It's not to avoid it, because I think that quite the opposite. I think South Node, Pluto, and Saturn and Capricorn is, for the ones that avoid the restructuring, it's more like, I'm going to double down and I'm not going to do anything about it. I'm just going to throw more concrete on the concrete that's already poured and just bury myself even deeper into the control system and the control system that I have over my life. Because the core of all this is about whether or not you are ready to let go of control, to see the path clearly through who your true emotional and identification of self is, and take the real risk of making transformational hard decisions that will actually lead to your ultimate happiness and joy and safety and emotional security, because it's within your actual real self. And you won't have to feel like you're on this weird kind of like old path of still stuff coming around, because no matter how much concrete you put on this, there's going to be cracks. There's going to be things that keep, shaking things up here, especially for another year of Saturn Pluto. Come on. So it's not like you can just put as much concrete on a situation as you can and hopefully it'll just go away and just fill the holes. Because Cancer does not like holes. Cancer wants to fill holes and fill it with good feelings, good food, good, joy. And the moon will be in Leo, which actually this moon in Leo is pretty cool this weekend. It does make a grand trine with the sun and Jupiter. So it's almost like you get paid by the universe of your ultimate happiness and all the doors opening by making these tough choices about things that you haven't fully let go of yet, or that you've put on the back burner, and kind of setting the tone and making the new direction and where you're going, and actually doing it. Because by the time the weekend comes, and especially Sunday, we have this really amazing grand trine, and the sun comes off of Saturn Pluto and the South Node, and it's like we move forward towards Uranus, which will be, and the full moon in Libra, which will be a bit major completion point of this whole relationship, kind of game and identity crisis. So there's a lot that's going on here. But the core thing to remember is that there's options. But it's about not applying every option. Now, I say that because with Saturn in its home sign, and more importantly, with the sun in its exaltation of Aries, these have to be options that identify with who you really are, and that continue on a path to completing your mission here as a light worker or just as an individual of your true authentic self on this planet. Also, with Neptune in its dignified home position, which has been making squares to Jupiter, and then Venus at its exaltation, which will actually make an exact square, it's not about applying delusional options anymore, or options that you continue to know that are going to have baggage, or doorways that are going to have the old stories repeating itself, or your old subconscious tendencies or your old subconscious patterns continue to come into these options. Like, if somebody gives you options for carpet, and you have a thing for 70s shag carpet that you just can't get over, but you know you got to get over it because it's like getting old, and you're actually not happy with it, but you're kind of addicted to it, and you choose to go to a carpet store that only has 70s shag carpet and maybe a couple other new kind of designs, like you're just kind of like setting yourself up for the lowest amount of doors opening from the universe, because you're just going to go replay who you've been constantly. And I think that when we talk in the spiritual community about ascension, or some people call enlightenment, which I'm not a big believer in enlightenment, especially in this life. But the whole point of this story is that, of this week, is that let's give ourselves doorways that lead us to who we are, to what we really want, to the ultimate dreams that Venus and Jupiter want, that are out of old patterns, that are out of the way, or systems or relationship situations, or things that we have done before. And whether that is your own addictive kind of unconscious behaviors, but with all this Capricorn, it is also connected to physical reality-based situations in your life with relationships and projects and so forth, and how you deal with your value and self-worth. There's one more semi-square to talk about. Mars is going to start semi-squaring the sun in Aries. So this puts up a very big question to this identity crisis of a very Gemini, very like situation of what twin are you going to be? We all got a twin inside of us. Which twin are you going to be? You going to be that one twin that everyone likes, that you like, and the one that really is connected to the path and knowing that you're on the factual understanding of truth? Or you're going to be that other twin. I love Geminis, but you know how Geminis can switch like out of nowhere, just like bang, bang, boom, and be that other one that everyone's like, get me the hell away from that. Usually with Geminis there's a trigger, whether it's alcohol or an emotional situation or something. Something always triggers, or stress or something. Something always triggers that you can never know when that other Gemini switches into that other twin. Are we going to do that to ourselves and just out of nowhere, oh, I'm good, I'm ready to know, and then, oh, but this is going to be too hard and uncomfortable, and let me just see if I can keep putting more concrete and let me concrete the back burner feeling. Really? Are we going to concrete ourselves to where when we actually want to get rid of this back burner energy, or this energy of finally releasing, that we have to even pound harder with hammers and get a freaking jackhammer out and go just to get back to that place? Are we going to cement ourselves in that deep to when Saturn and Pluto at the end of 2019, the very first month of 2020, come into their actual conjunction point? And are we going to be at a place where we're like, I have transformed my life completely, hoorah, baby, let's roll? Or no, I have to get my jackhammer out now and I have to perform major reconstruction. And you're calling up the old owner of the Sands Hotel in Vegas and being like, yo, dude, who did you use to demolish the Sands, man? Is he cheap? Because money will be a big situation in the fall of 2019 with all the Scorpio energy opposing all this Taurus, Uranus stuff, with so much that's going to be going on in the world. Okay? Like, are you going to put yourself in such a position that you're going to make it so hard on yourself at the end of this year just like you felt at the end of 2018, just times 2, and the crazy energy that we felt of the beginning of 2019 times 4, are you going to go throw yourself right now because of the choices you're making now of I feel good and this is easy and I'm not going to deal with this shit, and fucking prepare yourself for when we get to that space and just that's what you're going to deal with? Like you're going to go deal with it twice, 4 times as much. I would even put it at 10 times as much harder and more intense. And be dealing with these situations? We've already been dealing with them and they've already been difficult and they've already been hard. You want to just go triply, quadruply, 10 times go make that shit harder? Come on now. There's no more messing with this whole entire thing of like, oh yeah, I could just put this on the side. And that's why this week Jupiter's trying to be a guru, and a master Jupiter is the biggest planet. Jupiter is in its home sign, and it is the only one retrograding, and it's the only one looking in a different direction, while all the other planets are not. And Jupiter is in its home sign, and it is very powerful here because Jupiter is the biggest planet. But with this, energy, we have to start to be our own teachers, and that's how we do master this reality. And part of this teaching lesson this week is to look at what is no longer serving and that we keep putting on the back burner and we keep lying to ourselves about. Because with this moon in Gemini that will oppose Jupiter at the exact degree with Jupiter retrograde, at the exact week where Mercury and Venus square Jupiter, while Venus comes on Neptune, and then it semi-squares Uranus, while Mars semi-squares the Sun. And that's a very weird one because Mars is in Gemini, dealing with mental understandings of self, and the Sun is exalted and in its home sign of Mars sign. You can't make this shit up, I'm telling you. You can't make this shit up. Why don't we take a look at the chart so I can show you, because that's how intense this shit's going to be. So I just want to reiterate one more time. I'm doing a special report video. We're filming it for the next couple days. It's going to be about the full moon in Libra and really coming to this whole understanding of what's going on with relationships. It's no joke, this buildup over the next couple weeks. And that's why I'm putting it out Friday before this Sun-Jupiter grand trine comes, so you can really open the right doorways in your life to understand a lot of this stuff with the relationship stuff and get prepared too of Venus square Jupiter, and more importantly, this full moon that's going to be coming up, because even after the full moon I'm going to cover, because I didn't do a monthly horoscope because I thought that I would choose this monthly horoscope during the time in which people would need it. We've got the Sun in Uranus in Taurus for the first time in 70 plus years, okay? So there's a lot going on about this new world and this new understanding, and you can feel it right now in your life. Also, of course, highvibetvschool.com has been popping, and I've been doing a lot of classes, and that's another reason why it's been very difficult to get up this video. Because I've been putting out a lot of business school, spiritual school, and then of course all the astrology classes, and then we have all these other great teachers on there teaching a lot of courses. That's at highvibetvschool.com. So, and I'll be honest, I've been racing for the last 2 weekends, and it was crazy. And I'm okay if anybody's asking, because I know I put a post that I did get hurt. But I'm doing pretty good now, and I gained like 5 pounds. Feel good. Let's take a look at the charts now, because there is some big stuff coming here. So when we look at Tuesday, which is today, if you do watch my daily videos, it's nothing but a Tuesday. And you know what? Today is kind of a good day, I feel. But I think because what we're feeling is, look at this moon. So we got this moon and Mars energy, right? So I think, Monday was a little bit, I will say edgy, because that moon Mars, that was the first time the moon had passed Mars in Gemini for 2 years. And it was a little edgy in the mind, and especially since there's so much going on with all this Pisces energy. But as we're talking right now live on this Deep Astrology, look at Venus and Neptune are conjunct. Venus is approaching Neptune. Venus is entering into, Poseidon's lair of this deep kind of like imaginative, world of Oz, kind of like, also, it is kind of like a going to a hospital with a anesthesiologist, and like when it comes to your relationships and your projects, like, just put myself to sleep and not deal with it. Bleh, bleh. Let me just believe and let me just dream that it's all beautiful. But remember that the semi-square is still going on from Uranus over to Neptune and Venus. So if you're not waking yourself up to reevaluating the situation in your projects and your relationships and stuff and seeing the truth in them, this anesthesiologist is not going to be able to keep you asleep during the surgery that you are having to perform with Jupiter retrograde and the Sun square Saturn, which I'm about to show you. But, and that's a good thing because you almost don't want them working or operating on you and doing something, or you doing something to your own life that you really don't want to go through for the rest of this year till the Saturn Pluto conjunction happens in January 2020, when things are going to get gnarly, and just throw more cement on this situation. I mean, because Venus and Neptune really don't want to like cause any harm, okay? So that's the part of the problem, is the sun, as we see it's at 19 degrees, this is actually like the exaltation point of Aries sun, is squaring Pluto or Saturn there at 20 degrees. Look at that. Saturn's at 20 and 11 minutes. And look at the sun, 1955. So tonight, it's already beginning. And it's happening right when Jupiter is stationary, ready to come retrograde at 10 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday. So this is a big deal. It's not just like some, here we are being forced with big reality checks, but when it comes to Venus, I don't want to deal with the truth. I don't want to deal with, I just want to feel good and just keep the good feeling going. Let's just keep the good feeling going. I don't want to deal with shit. So it's almost like this Sun square Saturn is hidden from ourselves, because usually Sun square Saturn, I'll be very real with you and honest, is like the transit that we all don't want to have. In astrology, when we see Sun square Saturn, we're like, ew. If I see that in a composite chart, if I see that in, between two people, or if I see that with even like synastry with Sun Saturn or Saturn and Sun squares or whatever, I'm like, oh God, that's gonna be a lot of hard work. If I see that in someone's normal natal chart, I know they got a big kind of, life that they got to really, grow up and deal with a lot of things. And this is about growing up. It's Saturn in its own sign. But with Venus there, it's kind of like, no, don't, it's okay, child. Like, yes, they want you to grow up, but let me just anesthesiology you. How much more do you want me to put into your IV? Let me put a little more. Psst, psst, psst. You want a little more? Okay. Psst. You want a little more? Okay. Psst. Are you out yet? Here, I'll just push it again. Psst. Like, great. Thanks for just knocking me the freak out of my own delusion and not able to deal with the reality that's at hand. And these reality checks are not going to be easy, because I'm going to advance, well, actually, let's not advance. Let's keep this here on Tuesday. Look at this. Before the moon does oppose Jupiter, it is squaring Venus and Neptune. Squaring it. So the moon in Gemini is like emotionally like, I am getting information in my emotions that something is off. Because there is that square to Neptune, there is that square to Venus. Something doesn't feel right. Something feels off. This could be about a specific person. This could be about a specific situation going on where there's some shadiness that you're trying to understand. Or all of that plus a situation where you know there's something wrong and you are glossing it all over. Now, it was great feeling these great vibes over the last 5 days, but, that's all over now. You know what I mean? Like, don't fool yourself and say it feels real good because it's an anesthesiologist who's pumping you full of drugs or delusion that it is good to get you through your own unconsciousness of where you aren't ready to make a choice because you just want to just keep this whole situation on the back burner and not actually find the true emotional comfortable place, because the sun is going to start to square the nodes this week. And while all this is happening, so let's actually, I will take you all with me to Wednesday, which is pretty extreme, to be honest with you. Holy cow. So Wednesday at 10:01 a.m., 48 seconds. I could even be off a couple seconds. I don't know. I did this, to the minute. But this is when Jupiter is going to retrograde, and wait till you see this chart. Holy mother. And I just want to put this out, and I think I said it last week, or I said it on some video. I don't know. I've done so many videos. Jupiter retrograde is one of my top transits I don't like the most. I used to sit in a jacuzzi for months. And you got to remember that every year Jupiter, when it retrogrades, it adds another month, okay? So I remember when Jupiter would go retrograde, like at the beginning of the year, or when Jupiter would go retrograde, during the winter. And I remember sitting through the whole winter like, gosh, get me through this. I would watch Jupiter and watch it go backwards in the sky. And then I would just sit and look at a jacuzzi and just go, please go direct. Because I think that this Jupiter retrograde isn't as bad as most Jupiter retrogrades because it is in its home sign, but it is coming into big squares with Neptune again. It is in a space where it's in a big battle. So it's not like it's the easiest of easiest, because really it's about our true perceptions and whether or not we're really ready to adventure into areas we've never been before, which is past unconscious behaviors, past typical situations that we've been in, that we're replaying, that are common to us, that feel familiar, because Neptune has a way of making things feel familiar. Like, if the aliens were to come down, they would definitely try to make us feel familiar. And we would all believe it. Like, they would put on something to look more human-like, and even the media does this, which why do you think that Neptune rules the media? Right? Like, they always show us aliens as kind of like having a ship with controls. Like, we'd have who's to say these motherfuckers would even use controls? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so there's this familiarity of what we are looking at, or even our subconscious behaviors of the same typical partnerships, the same typical, patterns that we do in our lives, about what we're trying to expand out of. But no, it's like, I don't know if I'm ready for that. I need a retrograde, and I need to look actually and see it from a new point of view now. And it could be a real rude awakening this week, because when Jupiter retrogrades at 24:21, you can't make this shit up. Look at this. The moon is exactly at 24 degrees Gemini. Oh my gosh. What does that mean? Well, one, the moon is feeling something's off again. This moon in Gemini is like, what the fuck is going on, man? Like, what the hell's going on? Why am I in the dark? Like a little kid, like, why am I in the dark? I know there's something up. What the hell is it? I need to figure it out. I need to speak it out. I need to communicate it out. But no, Mercury is in Pisces and it's fall, and it's got Pluto in sextile. It's got the South Node in sextile. So there's us going, well, I can control this situation as best as I can with the South Node there, and maybe I just won't talk about it. Maybe I just won't deal with it right now. And then you've got the moon opposing Jupiter in retrograde, which is like, is it you emotionally over-optimistic about your own ideas and ideals that are in major T-square to Mercury because you think that it looks like it is when it really doesn't? I mean, I'm going to use a very real story, and I'm just going to be honest with you. I remember the first time I took mescaline, okay? I was at a rave, did a bunch of ecstasy, and I don't promote drugs on my channel. It's just an experience. On a bunch of mescaline, great rave, by the way. Get back to my house at the time, and I'm looking at my roommate's girlfriend. And I'm looking at her, and she would turn from herself to this 110-year-old like Japanese woman in full Japanese old 2,000, 4,000 year ago Japanese woman. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what is that? And then she would turn right back into herself. And I'm like, you gotta be kidding me right now. And there was a part of me that at one point during that whole thing that it almost turned full her at 110 years old, and I was ready to believe that she was 110 years old. Okay? And that she was from like this old Japanese like kind of woman. And I'm like, then when that thing turned off, it finally brought her back and to reality. And my whole notion here is like, with this T-square, the Jupiter retrograde is in a massive T-square with the moon in Gemini and with Mercury square the moon and the moon square Jupiter. Your mind is locked in its own perception and delusion of the stories and imagination that you want to believe, but the only truth bringers are in factual, perceptional brainwaves and frequencies, Jupiter and Mercury. And Jupiter is retrograde, so it's off and it's stopped and it's gone as far as it can. And now Jupiter is a backpacker with his Cliff Bar, going, I needed to put up the tent and take a break for a second. I have gone so far, I need to stop. And Jupiter doesn't like to stop, by the way, but it does, how long can you be in airports until you're finally going to get sick, or you're going to finally get so tired of them that you finally go, I'm done with traveling for a minute. We all get over traveling. And there's not one person, I don't care who they are on the planet, I love to travel. I can travel for the rest of my life. Oh yeah, okay. Be in an airport all the time and then, get through lines and get through delays and then until you finally I just needed to take a break. And that's why Jupiter is offline, so our perception's off, and we need to reassess all the information now, because from a higher point of view, from a wisdom, that's why it's good to counsel right now with somebody who's a teacher or somebody who can see things from another perspective, because Mercury is in fall position and it is sextiling over to the South Node and Pluto. And this means, and it's exact, Mercury is 2255, it will go to 23 on the day of Jupiter retrograde, and it's sextiling Pluto. And Mercury in Pisces and Pluto in Capricorn is the ultimate, especially with the South Node, is the ultimate, I'm going to hold on and keep a secret. I'm not going to talk about it. I'm not going to let it out. I'm going to just try and control the situation and numb myself. Numb. Let me just numb. Just keep remembering. Just your word for your reminder. Hey Siri, at 10 a.m. every morning, remind me to not be numb.
Here's your reminder.
I added not be dumb to your reminders.
She said dumb, but it was numb on my phone. Anyway, with Venus exactly conjunct Neptune at the exact time, you can't make this shit up, okay? You want to talk about numb and avoidance and delusion and I feel great? It's like, I'm sorry, there's moments in life where we must do this. Let's say you're at a family party. Let's say you're with grandma or grandpa. And, I remember as a kid, it's like you've been there for a week and, you're over it. You're ready to go have fun and play with your friends or something and go back to school, actually. You almost you're like, I've been kind of here. And it's like, everything starts to become like, yeah, I love that, or whatever, and kind of looking around. I'm not saying I was like that all the time, but I'm just going to be real. We all play that fucking game. Or you're at somebody's house that you're not enjoying to be at, and they're like, oh, yeah, you want to play backgammon now? And you're like, I got to go. I don't want to be here. But you feel so bad to leave, you're just like, yeah, sure, I'll play. And then now you're playing a fucking backgammon game, and now it's like, you want to eat too? And it's like, well, and we're cooking. Well, what are you cooking? Well, we're cooking some crazy sea urchin from fucking wherever, and we're putting fake cheese all over it. It's like, I don't want to be rude, but I get, yeah, I'll eat it. And you're like, ugh. Are you doing that to yourself? But you're totally caught up into oh, I can't. This moon in Gemini wants to understand from Jupiter. It literally is like, I am not in dignity like you are. I am wanting information to feel emotionally secure, and I am willing to take whatever you could give me of wisdom, because Mercury, my ruling planet in Gemini, right? The moon's in Gemini, so the ruling planet of Gemini is Mercury. And guess what? It's in its fall position, and it's in the middle of Pluto that's controlling and saying, and manipulating, especially in Capricorn with the South Node, like of control. Oh, keep control of this situation there, child. Keep control of it. We don't want it to get too crazy. We don't want you to speak up. Keep your mouth shut. Keep your mouth shut. Just stay numb. Stay numb. We don't want you to emotionally really feel your emotions because we've got control over you. To be honest with you, on a grand scale, this is where everything I've been talking about from last week about suppressing yourself and what the dark's trying to do to people, it's all now coming to this spot now, chink, because with the sun, we haven't even talked about this, it's squaring Saturn. And so yes, I know it's important to make sure that you think about the decisions you make in your life and that not to rush into decisions and so forth, but the sun square Saturn is the sun's identity is being literally either A, used by Saturn as like a slave. Are you going to enslave yourself to controlling situations that you're afraid to be yourself in? To really be yourself? And because Venus is on Neptune, you know, there's this over-compassionate of like, well, I don't want to like drop the bomb on somebody right now and how I really feel, but the moon in Gemini and Mars is in Gemini, like, hello, like this identity, this emotion, this passion of where you're excited to go about in your life is being numbed by your inability to speak up, by your inability to deal and grow up. That Saturn's trying to teach the sun in exaltation. Like, hey, I like you in exaltation, sun. I am in dignity, so I am in control here, but I am a good person. Like Saturn has its good qualities. And it's what it's trying to tell the sun is like, I want you to succeed. But if you aren't going to succeed, I might as well just throw you in the pile of one of those people that I can control. So this is kind of like, and I know this might sound divisive, but it's very almost like Saturn and Pluto in the South Node in Capricorn are testing souls out this week of who is sovereign in their true identity and will deal with all this Piscean, you know, weird karmic stories ending and still buying the false advertisement of the story. Because we are all being given false understandings of this reality on all angles. If you take the Jupiter square Neptune, same thing happened in 1852 and 1853, which led to a civil war in 1861. 2, with Venus on Neptune, we are being numbed out because we're choosing not to deal with the situations and just be real and honest and confront them. We would rather avoid them. That's Neptune, avoid. Be ultra spiritual, man. Like, just find the compassion in it. It'll all work out. But with the sun square Saturn, it's like, I'm here to help you achieve where you want to go. And with this Cancer North Node, we need to look at the moon. Where we need to aim is to emotional intelligence, not, you know, spiritual slash, you know, compassionate slash delusional, you know, Disneyland thinking about situations that we know if we go to the core, and I'm going to use the example I used last week again, there are all these layers that we've put on top of ourselves of delusion now, and we just added the fucking frosting this weekend. Because this was such good energy this weekend, it just threw the frosting on it all. So now you're like ready to eat the story. This is where Saturn is about restricting. The sun in Aries is about identifying. We identify with the story that we need to say no to the story that we don't want. We have to say no. Saturn is telling us, yeah, do not ride this train anymore. Like, this is your opportunity to say, pull the emergency cord and say, stop and get out. Just like that movie, Get Out. That fool needed to get out the second he met that chick. Like, come on, dude. Go watch the movie Get Out. Go watch that motherfucking movie this weekend. Or right now, tonight. I know it's a little bit of a scary thriller one, but there's some tarot in it. There's a bunch of occult stuff in there. And more importantly, there's a bunch of hypnotic energy. There's a bunch of hypnotism. That there are foreign energies. And I'm going to say this one more time. This is the last week I'll say it. Uranus in Taurus is a foreign energy. And especially in its fall position, that means it can come through. And remember that this is the star system of the Pleiades up here. It actually starts more in late Taurus, and into Gemini. But we are in a position here where foreign energies are slipping through the cracks, and they're semi-squaring exactly over to Venus-Neptune. And so this is about Uranus test. So we have Saturn, which is the son of Uranus, testing the sun, but we have Uranus testing Venus. Both exalted positions are getting massively hit by major planetary aspects. Neptune's on top of Venus, and almost Neptune is in on this too. Kind of like, well, I'll feed them the dirt. Like I'll feed these people on the planet Saturn, because remember that Saturn and Neptune are working together. So there is a full delusional cake that you're ready to eat. In relationships, in projects. And this full moon in Libra is going to set you fully into that trap. And then Saturn and Pluto, when they go retrograde, you're going to have to deal with it when they finally come back into a closer conjunction point, when they actually conjunct in January 2020. And I'm going to say this one more time. I said at the beginning, 10 times scarier and more intense than ever in our lives of dealing with these situations, of whether you are going to sit in them or not and put more freaking concrete and buy this whole schlop. It's not kosher, and eat it the rest of the year. That's how big fucking Wednesday is. I mean, there's even, I could go on for like an hour just on Wednesday, but I don't have enough time for that. But think clearly. Don't think from a state of control over things that you're afraid to let go of. You need your own space away from relationships, away from feel-good energies or escapism, and you need to come into terms with your adult self, and more importantly, you need to come into terms with where your emotional mind is starting to understand what is more exciting in your life, what makes sense, what is where you really want to go, since it's in opposition to Jupiter, instead of the opposite of a naive moon in Gemini in opposition to Jupiter that's just like, I'm emotionally great, and you know what, this will all fucking go wonderful. Somehow, I don't know, because Jupiter is in opposition to me, and I don't know. Somehow, it'll just come through. I'm sorry to say, folks, Scorpio season and all the Scorpio shit is over. This is no longer we're just going to receive shit. This is Taurus work. You reap what you sow by what you own, by what you have, by what you keep, by what you wear, by what you smell, by what you taste, by what you actually lick, by what you actually put in physical energy into in your life. It is in you. There is no the Scorpio anymore of the work of what to attract in and what our inner shit is. No, this is physically, if it's in your life and it's in your face and it's not fucking good for you, it's fucking gonna not be good for you until it's gone. Damn, my moon in Taurus came out right there. Fuck yeah. I am actually giving Saturn credit that Saturn is trying to save the motherfucking Earth right now from a bunch of people who are going to go into a hypnotic situation of being trapped because the Pluto, Saturn, and Capricorn will take everybody and everybody's shit as much as it can. And what is it robbing you of? Yourself. Because of your over-emotional indulgences in what you have understood of partnership over the last 35 years, what you have understood of what harmony and beauty is over the last 35 years, since the modeling days of Madonna now. All that shit's about to change in 2020. So, if you want to ride the very end scenes in the credits, they're not even that good of scenes anymore, of old relationship paradigms that don't make sense anymore, fucking beauty situations that don't make sense anymore, and all that shit, go right ahead. Saturn's trying to fucking save the motherfucking ship, and more importantly, to get you on your true emotional, true identity, and create the reality that really is who you are. Because you're not going to get a Sun trine Jupiter at the end of this week ever again for another 12 years, and with the Sun exalted, and with Jupiter in its dignity, and with the Moon in Leo in an exact great trine. When Jupiter aspects happen this week, exactly, the Moon is there. And the Moon is the North Node's ruler right now. You have to pay the most attention to those days. And it's Wednesday and it's Sunday. Let's keep moving on because I'm going to lose myself just on how fucking gnarly just one day each week is. It's insane. So Thursday, the 11th, Venus comes off Neptune and, oh, they woke up. Mercury squares Jupiter. So this could be kind of a rude awakening because the Moon, of course, in Cancer is now going, oh my gosh, okay, got out of that kind of crazy, there's a lot of crazy stuff going on. I just want to feel comfortable and I want to feel safe, but oh man, what? I've got to assess a lot of information here. Venus is going to start sextiling Saturn, which means we do need to make choices in these relationship fields, and they can be actually very easy for us, especially if we allow ourselves to pay attention to what's going to make us grow up and give a reality check to things. Remember, even though Venus is exalted, Saturn's in dignity, and it's got the South Node on it, and it's trying to reset and start over new construction that'll make sense to bring you the ultimate of good feelings. So what you think makes you feel good now, there is actually something better. Why do you think all this is happening with Uranus and Taurus? That's the whole lesson of Uranus and Taurus, to feel better in new ways by trying new things. And I'm sorry that all the stuff that you have right now in your life and the way that you've wrapped your comfort around it and wrapped your emotions and wrapped your delusions and wrapped all these crazy foreign entity ways to hold light workers and hold souls into the greatest trap there ever was. Because 1984, the book was written for a fucking reason, almost 100 years ago, and it was for this Saturn Pluto South Node in Capricorn. This is where we have to think not delusionally, and we need to see the big picture, and we need to be open and honest with that, and not, and you know what being spiritual is right now? Is admitting your own shit. Admitting your own lies to yourself. Admitting your own perception that is taking you on the wrong course. Allowing yourself to understand that. Mercury already squared Jupiter twice in less than 2 months. Mercury, when it was direct, squared Jupiter. Now Mercury retrograded, squared Jupiter. And now Mercury's going to square Jupiter for the third time, but this time with Jupiter retrograde, which means it's going to deliver all of the wisdom that it can of what it's received over this whole Jupiter last 9 month cycle, even through Scorpio. Because you got to remember, when Jupiter retrogrades, it's bringing in wisdom that was even deep from the Scorpio shit of the truth, of the authentic true core of your root chakra and what you really want and what you can actually go and believe and adventure and have. But if you're going to go live in this delusion, Jupiter's saying, because Jupiter's in its dignity to Mercury, I am sorry that if you factually cannot see what's going on here and you can't communicate because it's too hard for you to communicate, it's too sensitive situations, like you're not, and I'm not trying to trigger anybody, but Jupiter basically is saying, like, I'm sorry, you're not ready for mastery yet. Maybe there's another school for you to apply to, or I know this guy you can go pay 250 grand for and get in that school. And we all see what happens to people when that shit happens. If you're not ready, you can't be hard on yourself about it, because that means that your work is on sensitivity, that you're not really ready yet for the next round of evolution, which is Taurus, which is having the best life possible, the best relationships, the best job, the best situations, because it will only move forward when you are at the par to the value of where you should be going and what you have in your life and what you are with around you, what is in your life physically. And these are these tests. But if sensitivity is an issue for you, and more importantly, loving to replay old stories and not willing to surrender and let go, and if you actually look at your text messages, or you actually have phone calls with relationships or people or situations you haven't let go of yet, you know it's done, you'll notice that you're just saying the same old shit at the same old time. It's the same situations that are fucking bringing you to the same fucking conclusions all the time. But if you're not aware enough to see that, and you're still in the delusion of this is a new week and maybe a new situation will show up. Ha ha ha. You really think it's going to be new? This is going to be the same shit. Same shit, different day. Maybe it smells different today. But this is also, I think, the ultimate test with the moon in Cancer, as it pretty much is lost, okay? It comes in, usually when the moon comes into a new sign, it's happy, because the moon will usually go void off course, which it does do at the end of Gemini after Jupiter retrogrades, which kind of puts people in this conundrum of what the hell's going on. Then it comes into Cancer, and it sextiles Uranus and goes, oh wait, comfort really is in the forward movement of a better life. But then it doesn't know what to do, because it becomes very sensitive as well. And Mercury's now squaring Jupiter, and now we emotionally have to process this information of truth, of the truth of delusion. And Mercury is finishing its sextile to Pluto of, am I just trying to control my life? Am I trying to control when I kaboom my situations? Am I trying to control my own destiny without the universe having any input? Even though you could act as high spiritually and evolved as you can, at the deepest core, I would say that the biggest lesson we're all learning is that even just one layer of control over when a situation in your life is done and needs to change blocks the evolution. Why do you think so many people with Uranus and Taurus literally were in poverty? I mean, it was people. I mean, I wasn't there, but I would do the astrology. It was Pluto in Cancer. I mean, over obsessed with just staying safe. Here's a lot of the similar aspects, but now it's this Capricorn Pluto, which is about you have as much safety as you need. I don't know about, if anybody who's watching this, they're in a first world country guaranteed, maybe third world. You could go get a drink of water on the fucking street right now. You could go get a free meal if you want and just sit on the side of the road and ask somebody, hey, I'm hungry, I don't have any food, can you hook it up? I bet you if you do that 3 or 4 times, it'll happen. Back with Uranus and Taurus, that shit didn't happen. This is a time to where we are trying to control our lives. the way we want it to be on our own time. And that's the sun's issue in Aries, the ego clashing with control. The identity clashing with the control of when I am ready to feel something emotionally. I'm not ready yet. So hold off, universe. Let me keep living the delusion as long as I can, even though I know it's not right or I know the truth. I don't want to fucking deal with it right now. Well, when's a good time for you then? I don't know. I'll get back to you. Soon. When soon? September, October, or November? Do you get it? I don't know if people get that one joke. But September, October, or November. You want me to do it when it gets shitstorm? Right now is not shitstorm. It's shitstorm only because it's your own personal old shit, karmic stuff holding you back from your ultimate new world. That is the shitstorm right now. There is nothing holding you back in your life right now. Zero. The only thing holding you back is yourself. And that's what this is going to show. There is no setbacks because of money. There is no setbacks because of, this or this situation, or I can't get a job or anything. It's because of whatever you're all wrapped up into around your own vendettas, around your own pleasures, your relationships, and the things that you like to have and the way that you like to have them, and your emotional situations attached to that you are afraid to deal with. That you already know are not good for you, they're toxic, they're over, they're done, and they're not going to take you to the ultimate place that you really want to go in life. It's a little bit like Elysium, the movie, or whatever. There's another world they go build, and they all go there, and that's where they're I don't want to say that the rich people. I'm just saying, maybe that's a true situation going down right now on the planet. Yesterday I saw an article saying that the scientists basically said we're all fucked when Yellowstone blows, that it's done. We're all done. And that they're looking into trying to fix that, but the question is if they try and go in there and it fucks up, that actually could start the fucking super volcano and we're all done. So maybe they are trying to have us find another way out for themselves. I don't know. But look at yourself like you have a super volcano going right now and you got to save yourself from it, but I don't want to deal with it because it's going to cause me to deal with some sort of uncomfort. When the ultimate position is the comfort off of the situation of the supervolcano. By the way, I'll show you on Friday's chart, but it's on Thursdays too. You can look back and see in the proof. Chiron moves at 3 degrees. Chiron is now out of last year's shadow and has now created a new shadow and has gone to new territory. First time in 50 years. So, of course you're afraid to go at it alone. Chiron's now moving deeper and deeper into Aries. And the sun's in Aries. And now the sun squares Pluto on Friday. Boom. Pluto's at 2307, 2235. That's halfway. It's only half a degree off. And by the end of Friday, the sun squares Pluto. And so this is where, are we really trying to control everything from our own desires, from our own needs, our own way that we want it? Or are we ready to actually accept change? I was born with Sun Pluto within less than 1 degree square, okay? I have learned, if as an astrologer I could teach everybody the Sun Pluto lesson, I would be the perfect candidate for it because I was born with Sun square Pluto. Literally, Sun square Pluto will do everything it can to get whatever it wants. And you all know, I seem to be that kind of guy. But I've had to learn the lesson that I'll commit, I'll drop everything to get into something, and then I'll get in there and be like, oh shit, what the fuck, I don't want this. And then I bail out. Because it's not what the soul maybe wants. Like, it's always fun looking at a Scorpio, Pluto layer, or a Medusa, or even a strip club or an occult energy, whatever you want to call it, like a temple, right? All 8th house stuff, right? Like, looks very enticing. It's edgy, it's different. Sometimes it works out great. Some other times it doesn't work out great at all. You're out there running and screaming like, get me the fuck out of here! So, this is where the big ultimate test will come. Because on Friday, Venus is at 20 now, and it is going to exactly sextile Saturn. And that's a choice point about, do you have the control about what's best for your long term instead of the control for your most singular emotional needs? If you actually look at the moon, it's going to be exactly opposing Saturn and Pluto as the sun will square the moon. Look at this T-square. Oh my God. The sun squares the moon exactly as it's squaring Pluto. Change. And you know, this whole week's going to freak you out because why did it feel so good? And then out of nowhere, bam, force you into radical change. Because that's the dark's way of doing it. Let's just put all the frosting on the top. And really, because it's almost like Snow White with the evil queen. Like, I can't believe she used a fucking apple. Like, come on, Snow White. Really? Like, I know apples are good and all, but in today's world, you know, give me a Krispy Kreme donut or something with some icing on top. Something. But whatever it is you like, maybe it's some new vegan juice or whatever. It just looks so enticing, doesn't it? To just stay and to ingest what is in front of you in the story and to believe the story, whatever that story is. Mercury is still conjunct, or is actually still squaring over to Jupiter on this sun-moon square at 24-24. So there is this weird conundrum going on that we are kind of stuck in this major issue because the sun now has squared Saturn. Even though the sun's exalted, it's squared a dignified Saturn, and now it's squaring a dignified moon, and it's squaring Pluto, which will always battle the sun of life and death. Which Pluto and Capricorn will always go to battle with Aries, because Capricorn says, I have a solution because I have a plan to get where I want. All you have is guts and glory, but I own the glory if you actually can achieve it and win it. Where Aries has every intention of winning until it hits its head, or it falls, or it runs out of gas, or it slips, or whatever. Saturn has all the rules and has all the higher ups and has all the political people in the right place and has everyone set up. So if there's an issue, call this person. If there's an issue, call them. If there's an issue, make sure they got that. It's got it all handled under control. So guess what? Your sovereign self is under the greatest attack of its whole entire life by your own self and not willing to make emotional, intense changes to change your whole reality. Because it's forced to go through a change. No matter what scenario you're in, you are facing cataclysmic forcing of change and restructuring. Because this is what South Node Pluto Saturn is, restructuring. Completely the Sands Motel, hotel in Vegas, and re-upping. So yes, it is definitely a destructive force, or if you want to play the South Node end of it and the delusional or the illusion part of it, it's you, I don't want to let it go of that. I'm going to hold on to it till the end. And I'm going to get a bunch of protesters out front. Keep the Sands Hotel. Keep the Sands Hotel. Do you think that shit actually happens and works right now? Look at all the groups that have been protesting. Has it really worked yet? This has been Saturn and Capricorn. This has been the higher ups, the energy that really that's going to do it is going to do it anyway. So, do you want to be the greedy, controlling, my precious? Go watch The Ring, or what is it? Freaking Frodo and all that shit. Lost. I don't even remember the name of that movie. What's the name of that fucking movie? Lord of the Rings. And think about that ring. Are you going to let your own self be taken away by the ring? And that ring is connected right now to all this Pisces and Capricorn over controlling your relationship situations, controlling what makes you feel good and staying on that path instead of making a big change to which is a better path. And with the sun square the moon's like, I am not comfortable till I am who I really am going to be. And the moon opposed Pluto is realizing that I can't feel comfortable unless I make a restructuring change. So this T-square, these are major squares to the sun in its exaltation by dignified points. And it's a Saturn element as well, because Saturn is at 20 degrees. So the sun is still squaring Saturn and it's squaring the south node. And it's squaring. And so when you have the sun squaring the nodes, at the exact time of Pluto and Saturn and the moon and Saturn are the rulers of the nodes, and they're in opposition, and they're squaring the sun at the same time. I can't make this shit up. I really wish I could. But what I'm trying to say and why that's such a big deal is because, and Mars is sesquiquadrate this whole thing. So it's like, are you going to go play your stupid twin or your smart twin? And are you really going to allow yourself to explore and identify with a new environment, a new thought process, a new fresh slate of energy and ideas and excitement and stimulation? Or are you just going to constantly try and keep stimulating yourself in the same position? It'd be like masturbating all the time in the same place at the same time with the same energy all the time. Like, come on, like, let's be real here, folks. I just said that. Like, this is forcing us to change. And if you want to have fun, just talk to people at the end of this weekend and see what story they chose. And without judgment either, because you'll see how far this thing will go on that full moon coming in the following week. Now, as we come to Saturday, things chill out because the sun's going to come off of this Pluto-Saturn south node. Uranus is going to come to 2 degrees. Now, why is that a big deal? Because Uranus went retrograde at 2 degrees. It was a little farther. I think it was like 2... I don't think it went past half the degree. So we're almost through the Uranus out of its shadow zone. But Uranus now is at 2, which is a very heavy emotional degree. And the moon in Leo is squaring that, and it's reminding ourselves that the ultimate passion and happiness, especially with the sun in Aries, is to live our own happy life of what makes us truly happy instead of attachments to happiness. But the happiness that we define from our own selves, not through an attachment of emotional need or I can't let it go. Leo, we're happy if we lose everything and it's all lost, okay? Like we have to, as a Leo, the reason why that Leo's 12th house is Cancer is because the only comfort is we get comfortable when we lose things because we have to learn the lesson to love every situation at every moment. That's why people always go, how are you so positive? Even after I slipped and fell and fucking zipped my penis up in my fucking zipper and fucking ripped my fucking thing to shreds and bleeding everywhere and still gotta pee and gotta smile. You know what I mean? Because I still gotta love life even through the shit storms. But that's the whole point. Is that this moon in Leo is coming in to say, hey, is this really the show we want to be playing right now? Like, or remember that Leo is the life of the party. And this weekend could definitely be a great party, but if you just chose to stay in the story, in the scenario, and pour concrete on the one you don't really want to be in because you were emotionally and sensitively lost, then it's going to be a shitty party because that moon's going to square Uranus and Taurus and be like, oh, you can't go because you got that whole story you're going to own. Oh, I'm sorry. Well, who does it? Let's roll, baby. And you're just going to be sitting there going, oh, fuck. Especially since the moon is going to sextile the moon. Mars is going to sextile the moon, and it's ready for some social activity and some stimulation, and let's go have some fun. And the Sun square Pluto can be used for changing yourself to new environments that are more fun and more heart-centered and more alive. Venus is now getting ready for its sextile to the South Node and to Pluto, and it is a major position because it is starting its square as well to Jupiter and within 3 degrees. And again, Venus is not in power here. it thinks it is because it's exalted, but really it's not. It is Saturn that's sextiling it, and it is the nodes, which is more powerful, and more importantly, the Jupiter aspect is more powerful. And the moon this weekend is coming into trines with this grand trine, and that's what I'm about to show you. But before we go into that, I want to say this last point about this chart. This whole moon in Leo is demanding that we can only really feel the greatest happiness in our life if we truly allow ourselves to seek a new understanding, new environments, and we play with the duality of the two parts of ourselves and who we are, which are actually, in Gemini, can be millions of different twins and identities, but it really is the most logically, most sound, secure of what makes logical sense, that we move forward and we explore and find the greatness of what is out there to go explore. Because even though, yes, we give the explorer to Sagittarius, and yes, Jupiter is retrograde here, that Jupiter retrograde is here to bring you the doorways that will open you up to the most amazing places by allowing this Mars in opposition to explore more stimulant, more exciting and new and fresh scenarios. That can be extremely fun. So Sunday is the big day. I said that whenever the moon is an exact aspect to some of these big grand trines or squares, they're big. Sunday, April 14th, the sun's at 24, the moon will be at 24, and the moon in Leo will come to 24. I just didn't advance it, but it will come there while it's still there. And we're going to have a grand trine fire. And this grand trine, though, is going to have the moon in quincunx to Pluto, South Node, and Saturn, which means we can have this amazing new doorway and start to receive and actually start to feel these new exciting doorways. But it can only happen if we are ready to stand in our true courage. Leo is the real courage, the courage of the heart on its own. Aries is the courage on its own through the will to just take an action. But Leo is about committing to that action and owning that action and staying on that path and finding that love, even if the people, the situations, the job, the money goes up and down, whatever, it still stays on the path and still stays happy of its own happiness, of its love of itself. And with this great trine to Jupiter and Sag, it is about to give us wisdom on whether or not what we went through this week, on did we choose the story of our true door openings to the most wonderful, magical place in the world, which is what Venus and Neptune wanted, which is what Venus and Mercury want in Pisces, which is what all this Pisces wants, but it can only come when we learn to let go of what is on the back burner, which we're afraid to face, what is not factually making sense, and what when we look in the mirror, in the situations, in especially the relationships, because look at now Venus. On the day that the sun squares Jupiter, Venus is sextile Pluto, Venus is sextile and trine the nodes, and the moon's in Leo. And I'm sorry to say this is going to bring up romantic relationships, because it's the romantic relationships that you have to ask yourself, is this going to take me on the path of my true self for the long term? This will be the last time that the sun will trine Jupiter in exaltation and with Jupiter in its home sign. The next time that the sun comes into Leo with Jupiter in a really positive aspect is when the Jupiter is in Aries. Sorry to tell you, folks, it's going to be a minute. It's going to be 4 years. So, this is it right here. Now, yes, the sun comes into Leo and trines Jupiter later this year, but not with all this Pisces going down. And I will add that last note, Mars is on Aldebaran, bringing out the fixed stars, and it's opposite of Antares. And when you get Mars on Aldebaran, this is Archangel Michael. Look up Aldebaran, it's Archangel Michael. It is the one, so in the Seven Sisters, Aldebaran is Archangel Michael in front of those other sisters, those other angels, that is in battle, even though the other sisters bring energy to the big Antares, great red giant that's in the Scorpion. It's in the Scorpion, and Aldebaran is in the eye of the bull. and Algol, and there's a bunch of other planet stars there, but you got to remember that Aldebaran is Archangel Michael. And this is about Archangel Michael puts his foot on Lucifer and says, this is where the buck stops here, motherfucker. And why do you think that on the day that the sun trines Jupiter, we got Zeus in alignment perfectly with the sun, we got the moon in Leo, which the sun's in its exaltation, Jupiter is in its dignity. This beats out Saturn and Pluto in South Node, which it thinks it's got all the control. It does not. This is fucking life force at its extreme. And Venus is being asked to transform and truly transform its understandings of value, its understandings of what it wants, its relationships. And Mercury at 27 degrees now is only 2 degrees away from where it went to retrograde, its shadow. And it is only looking at Chiron, this fear of being alone, but it is lost in the depths of whether it's going to continue to be lost in holding on to shit that we know must leave. And this is about believing in that these new doors will open on this new path that's going to be opening up for us. Because if we do look at Monday, and I did want to bring up that Venus will square Jupiter, like I said on Monday, bang, bang, boom, baby, on tax day. You think taxes are going to go real well for people with money this year? If you file on the 15th? My personal opinion is to put an extension out. I mean, I don't know if I'm supposed to promote that or not, but astrologically, Venus square Jupiter, fuck that. I ain't doing taxes on April 15th. I'm postponing that till it gets a little bit better. But I will say, especially Mercury at 28 degrees in shadow, oh my gosh, before it comes out of shadow, no thank you. I will say this though, Mars comes off Aldebaran and Antares in opposition, and the moon comes into Virgo. This is what's interesting to me as we end the week. Because as Venus squares Jupiter, we can't believe any more weird stuff, or we can't be over optimistic anymore about, things that we want and relationships that aren't really. The truth is just becoming so clear with Pluto and Jupiter in aspect to Mercury and Venus in Pisces this week. But I think that the big news is this moon in Virgo is going to trine Uranus, and it's going to say, let's start to reprogram this new world. Let's start to figure out a new structure. Let's figure it out. Let's create a new rhythm. Let's clean house. Let's make this better. And more importantly, because the moon is going to, on Tuesday, when we come back for Deep Astrology, going to be in opposition to Neptune and Venus as Mercury comes to the last degree of Pisces and is ready to jump out into Aries and get out of the whole Mercury shadow and actually get out of the craziest 6 months of Mercury I've ever seen in my life. So, are you really going to make choices this week and stay in situations, literally, that when next week comes and the full moon in Libra comes, the second one, and with the sun at the cusp of the 29th degree of Aries and the moon at 29 Aries, and Mercury coming off of its craziness for the last 6 months, and the sun trine Jupiter this week that will give you all the doorways that are open to expanding your life. Are you going to grow up? Are you going to make the change? And are you going to emotionally see that it is not just staying safe and comfortable and numb, comfortably numb, like Pink Floyd would say, but that on the other side of leaving situations that are not of our true par, of our true value, and moving us forward into a new direction will honestly bring us the greatest world ever that we are afraid and cannot see. There is a blind corner that we have to turn in order to make these choices and trust. And Mars is exactly semi-square the sun. You have a major choice of who you are picking and which side of the fence you are choosing. And is it a logical one or a completely illogical one? And I will say that yes, this whole spiritual journey and all the greatness about this astrology and all this stuff is about that imaginative message, but I will say that it's about that imaginative message with the fresh start and with the smarts of seeing the truth. Because without truth, spirituality is just spirituality. Truth and spirituality is what awakening is truly about. So anyway, I'm going to end it with a couple things. One, Friday the video comes out. I'm doing a big special recording. It's going to be all about the relationship stuff because I know you feel it. It's going to become pretty extreme here. I'm making sure that this thing doesn't hit me. And I'm excited to also show people the rest of the month in the Sun-Uranus conjunction and so forth and the Taurus energy that we're going to come into after this full moon. Because you remember that right after the full moon in Libra, we literally jump into Taurus and moon in Scorpio. With Uranus, by the way. This full moon has Uranus too. People and ascension. So if you think that the astrology is trying to tell you it now and you're like, oh, this guy's bullshitting me. If I make it through this and I kind of control the situation, the next week I'll be fine. Second full moon in Libra with the Sun conjunct Uranus. And the first time that the Sun and Uranus are going to conjunct in Taurus with the moon in Scorpio at the end degrees of Scorpio. Of change and transformation. While we're getting ready for Pluto to retrograde and Saturn to retrograde here. So that video is going to be coming out Friday. Make sure you get it at theleoKingstore.com. And of course, highvibetvschool.com. Make sure that you get it at High Vibe TV School. It is so awesome. We got more classes. I've been throwing up more classes and we just keep going. It's so awesome. I've been having fun. I just keep throwing up mini modules and classes and mini videos and this. And I'm just having a blast doing it. And I'm going to keep going. So I'm just going to keep, there is no like limit to how much I'm going to keep teaching on there. And I guess I'm going to end with this. It's on a personal note about the last 7 years. So April 10th, 2012, I made a big commitment to God to do a video every day. And yes, there's that one commenter out there that has found the 2 days in 7 years that I missed. And one was I was terribly sick. And another, I think I really couldn't get it up because the internet didn't give it up. And I was like up in like the Pacific Northwest or something in 2013. So I'm sorry that in 7 years I've missed 2 videos, but over the 10,000 videos I've done and been doing a weekly sun sign horoscope for over 4.5 years now, since July 2014, but the daily horoscope video, which is on futurelife.tv, which is moving to highvibe.tv, by the way. In 2 weeks, it looks like 3 at the latest, but the apps are submitted and working with all the people right now and how the transition is going to work, which I'm going to have to present to you guys. I don't even know how it's going to all work yet. But I want to say thank you. I'm a life past 7, so to reach 7 years of doing this, just how you've been watching, means the world to me. I mean, 7 years ago, being here on this couch, doing it after doing it literally homeless in my broken 96 or 97 Mercedes C300 that broke on me like a million fucking times with the windshield and it was broken, and I had the head, whatever it is, like the headlighter was like literally like a drape on my head, like with a laptop trying to find a cord to plug it in to have enough battery to do a video every day, to this is because of you and watching and supporting. And I have done an all organic thing here of this knowledge. I really appreciate the comments, people saying that I deserve to be seen more, be heard more, whatever. But I just want to let you all know that don't fall for this whole social media of followers and all that. The information gets out to the people that it needs to get to. And I'm lucky, I get to do television, so I get the word out to millions of people all the time. And it's all because of you. And I appreciate you, and I do this work because I love you all, and I just want to channel the universe for you and bring you the most positive life that you could have. And when you follow the true universal code, you get to a position where you're sitting in a couch like this, looking at a camera like I am, and saying thank you, and also at the same time receiving the life that you want. So I approach every horoscope to this day and for the last 7 years, and over 10,000 now, with that notion that I've experienced in my own life by following it, I have achieved all my dreams so much I had to rewrite my 10-year plan because I reached my 10-year plan, which was actually my 20-year plan in 10 years. Literally. I was like, what? There's no more for me to reach? I got to fucking come up with new plans? Shit. Not a lot of people can say that. But it's because of you, and that's what astrology brings you. This isn't about me and what I've achieved, but it's what I'm proving to you, that it's astrology and it's the connection to the universe, that's how you connect to God at the highest form. That's what I believe Jesus talked about. That's what I believe Muhammad talked about. That's what I believe all the religions have all connected us towards, is this higher understanding of consciousness to the source energy and to connect with the divine universal code that we have all been blinded by. And I appreciate you all very much. So I'm going to end this. I love you all. Please share this. Please get it out. I truly appreciate it. That's the most that you could do for me, is just by sharing these videos or following me on Instagram, since that's now the new platform. If everybody can follow me on Instagram, I truly appreciate it, because I'm going to do more lives on there and more personal like stuff and some sun sign stuff. So check out my Instagram, please. If there's anything that you could pay me back with, everybody always asks, how can I pay you back? Honestly, just sharing and following my socials would just be awesome. So I love you all. We're going to roll a clip of the last, I think it's like up to like 5 years, or up to like the first 5 years of what it all started like. But if you've never watched, it's a fun, quick video. I truly appreciate you all, and I'll see you all on the next Deep Astrology, and hope to see you purchase that video on Friday about this double full moon in Libra. Love you all. See you later. Welcome to your inclusive astrology horoscope for Tuesday, April 10th, 2012. I'm your astrologer, David Palmer, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Tuesday brings us Pluto retrograde in Capricorn. Now, Pluto, the planet of transformation and really great change, is going retrograde in Capricorn. Now, retrograde is when a planet really gives us a review process in our life and goes internal. And welcome to your inspirational astrology horoscope for Wednesday, May 16th, 2012. I'm your astrologer, David Palmer, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. What's cracking? I'm with Bambi here. Hope everybody is going to have a wonderful Wednesday. I want to talk about the Pluto and Uranus square. We also, by the way, had Venus go retrograde yesterday in Gemini, which is a big change in energy. I'm sure you felt that change. But I want to talk about the Pluto and Uranus square. I've been hearing from clients, I've been hearing and reading all over, some people aren't feeling the big fortune of Jupiter that we just had with the Sun conjunction, and we've been having a lot of good fortune in astrological terms with a couple grand trines, a 6-point star. We have a huge square that has formed, and has formed for quite a while, but we are talking about within only 1.5 degrees, almost 2 degrees, with Pluto and Uranus. Hi there, I'm astrologer David Palmer, and I want to have a quick discussion about this solar eclipse happening on Sunday, May 20th, and why this is connected to the Palladians, and why this is such a rare and faded eclipse that is the initiation of a big part of 2012. Welcome to your inspirational astrology horoscope for Thursday, March 21st, 2013. I am astrologer David Palmer, here to illuminate the collective consciousness. Well, I am out in the middle of nowhere. I literally went to some street that I'm not allowed to go to. It was like a closed road because a redwood tree had like blocked the road, and I totally drove through it. And I ended up like straight up like in the middle of the redwood forest. Here, I'll just show you guys. I mean, we are like in the deep. It's just me out here. It's pretty cool. I mean, look at this road. It goes down nowhere. I mean, these trees go all the way up. Anyway, let's get down to the horoscope. Well, I still got some light. I want to get out of here before it gets dark. All right, first off, wow. We have really shifted into Aries. Now here we got Venus. Venus comes into Aries today, and this is really us feeling the power. But a little about this Venus and Aries too. This is always a very powerful time for Venus. I just saw this beach and I had to show you guys. I got a sunset here that's ridiculous. I don't even know what beach this is, but I mean, look at this place. It's pretty ridiculous here. Wow. Place is pretty cool. But Venus and Aries, beautiful placement for Aries. I always call it the blow-up doll in the zodiac. True beans. Anytime you see somebody with Venus and Aries, you know you're gonna get a party. You know you're gonna get some hotness too. Very passionate time for relationships, but they gotta stay stimulated, they gotta stay hot, you gotta keep the candle lit, you gotta keep the fire burning. You know, so now when it comes to partnerships, when it comes to our value systems, we gotta find what ignites us right now, what makes us feel heroic, which makes us feel strong, which learn from your past mistakes. This is where we face our past mistakes head first right now, and we understand why the past has brought us back to this place of how we can, you know, step forward on this energy and get out of it. You know, Mars in Pisces is ready to leave the past behind. But we have to face the past head first, and you can't let your beliefs feel like, oh yeah, I did that in the past, I won't do it again, you know, I believe because I believe. No, you gotta go face it, you gotta go see why and understand to make the belief. Don't let your beliefs, you know, oh, there's some seals right here, guys. They came to hang out. Let's see. We're going with the flow, right? Yeah, baby. Now this is going with the flow. They came to say hi. They've been hearing about the horoscopes. What's up, guys? Oh, they're so cute. So the seals came out to say what up to us, guys. And you know, they came to say, don't let your beliefs get in between you. Don't let your beliefs think they know everything right now, because they don't. They don't know the direction that Spirit's wanting us to go. Our feelings, our intuition.